Now, speaking of due process and constitutional rights, one of the things that's been happening this week as we've all been watching this bombing, CISPA is being run through. That's the House cybersecurity bill. That's sailed through very easily through the Republican-controlled House. It is now going to the Democrat Senate, where there is more resistance to it. Obama has promised to veto it, but can we really trust him? After all, he promised to veto the NDAA. He said he would not sign it. But then he said, I'll sign it, but I won't actually do anything with it. Well, we'll see what happens with that. But I've got to say that we need to stand up. You know, it seems like when the Republican politicians hear the word security, they reflexively lift their arm like Dr. Strangelove in the wheelchair and salute and say, Sig Heil. You know, anytime. Yes, he promised, yeah, Marcos is correcting me. He promised not to sign the NDAA. But he is now saying that he doesn't want to, that he might veto the CISPA Act, but we don't know that he's going to do that. What I'm saying is that we need to make sure that Republicans will contact the Republican legislators and tell them that the Fourth Amendment is just as important to them as the Second Amendment is. And I want to take a look at some of the things that are going on behind the scenes with CISPA. You know, it came up as the SOPA Act last year, and that was defeated, and that was basically focusing on copyright issues and things like that. Now that it's presented as a security issue, Republicans are all for it. And we have an article here that says, is this going to be the death of the Fourth Amendment? And what they're saying is, it means, now this is an interesting way that this is going to go through. They basically give immunity to corporations to release your private information to the government without having any Fourth Amendment protections. And in the article it says, this means that a company like Facebook, Twitter, or Google, or any other technology or telecom company, including your cell service provider, would be legally able to hand over vast amounts of data to the U.S. government and its law enforcement for whatever purpose it deems necessary and face no legal reprisals. There are no requirements that personal data, such as health records or banking information, should be anonymized either before sharing it with the government. So essentially what it does is it removes the legal liability for private corporations to share private information about you to the government. And the government can say, well, we didn't need to get a Fourth Amendment court order because we're not taking it directly. It's being handed over to us by a third party. Do you see how deceptive that is? And it says here, also in the article, the Fourth Amendment does not protect private companies from accessing and data mining your information for its own gain. It only protects against the U.S. government unlawfully accessing your information without a search warrant. Now, another aspect of this that bears looking at is the article, pull up the article, it says CISPA supporters spend 140 times as much money lobbying as opponents. Now, when SOPA came through, corporations put down a lot of money to fight that. But now, very little money is being put down to fight it, and there are a lot of corporations, big defense contractors, military-industrial complex corporations that are pushing in favor of this. Now, why do they like this? Well, they stand to benefit from big defense contracts. We have to understand that the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about has not only got us involved in perpetual war for the last 60 years, but that military-industrial complex is now hungry for even more money. They're not satisfied with multiple wars on foreign soil. They want to fund a giant police state here domestically. There's a lot of money to be made out of that. And one of the people that's going to make a lot of money out of that is the wife of the Republican legislator who is pushing for this. Mike Rogers, the biggest sponsor and spokesperson in favor of CISPA, his wife, Christy Clemens Rogers, she is the CEO of Aegis LLC, that's AEGIS LLC. She just got a $10 billion, that's B billion dollar security contract with the U.S. State Department for security services. And she writes articles about cybersecurity. Now, Rogers has said some pretty amazing things in defense of this bill. He's made claims that there's no companies that oppose it, that only 14-year-olds who are blogging and tweeting from their basement support it. He's said that this is not about getting any private information on anybody. It's simply all a bunch of ones and zeros. Can you believe that he said something that incredibly stupid? You know, all digital communication is ones and zeros, but there's a lot of content. All of your personal information is transmitted as ones and zeros. Certainly, he's got to realize that we know that. And lawmakers have cited the Boston bombing and WikiLeaks as justifications for passing CISPA. You see, if they call it security, they can get you scared about anything and expect that you're going to surrender your rights. And certainly we don't want to know the types of things that have come out of WikiLeaks, the types of things that have been secrets that have been revealed about Henry Kissinger and that sort of thing. This bears watching, and again, I repeat, this is not passed yet. It faces more opposition in the Senate. The Democrats, for some reason, are a little bit more friendly to civil liberties than Republicans are, especially if security is mentioned. So we have a chance to defeat this in the Senate, especially if we put pressure on Republican lawmakers who typically would reflexively vote on that. And we have to understand that it is an uphill battle because there are a lot of big corporations who are pouring a lot of money into this and stand to gain very big military contracts, as well as a lot of businesses. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is supporting this because they see this as a way of essentially not getting stuck in a tug of war between law enforcement and civil lawsuits of people that they are turning their information in. Now, one last story we have tonight, and then we're going to go to the interview that we have with Mike McNulty. Before the blast, West Fertilizer's Monsanto lawsuit, there was a lawsuit going on, a class action lawsuit that's been going on for a couple of years between the fertilizer company that just had the massive explosion up in Waco. That was going on with Monsanto, and that's been dragging on and on. So that's a story that has a lot of interesting elements to it. We're not saying necessarily this is a conspiracy to set up to draw attention away from the anniversary of the Waco bombing, but it is amazing that that happened so close to the anniversary of Waco, that it happened so close to there being a emergency drill there that was one day away, and that it involved fertilizer, albeit on a much, much larger scale than Oklahoma City. If you remember the Oklahoma City bombing that also happened on April the 19th, retired military generals came forth, at least one, came forth and said that that it was not plausible that a fertilizer bomb would either do that much damage or have that kind of blast pattern by itself. So I don't know. This is a giant explosion, but it was a tremendous amount of fertilizer explosive there. Well, we're going to go to a break. We've got a report coming up from Jakari Jackson, and oh, we just got a news release that they captured him live. Is that correct? Are we? Okay. Well, it looks like they have just... Oh, okay, they're calling for a medic, so he may not survive to have trial and discovery. Certainly hope that he does not... We don't know at this point. You know, we're always very careful to say that someone is an alleged suspect. And hopefully the police would have that kind of deference to not shoot someone until they've had their due process and been found guilty, that they would not enact street justice on him. We would very much like to know his side of the story. And so we very much hope that he survives. We would like to hear that story. But one way or the other, we're going to have tireless people like Mike McNulty, who spent, as I said, over 10 years and documented how people like Eric Holder, who was very much involved in the Waco trial as well as in the Oklahoma City bombing, he documents very closely what happens with the process, and he did a lot of freedom of information data and very detailed tests about the fires that happened at Waco. So stay tuned for that right after the break.
The important thing about the Pro One filter today is that the material we use for removing fluoride and other heavy metals now will remove the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid. There's no other fluoride reduction filter out there that will remove that type of fluoride. And it's extremely important because today we're hearing more and more cities are using that form of fluoride.
We've been having medication forced on us through the water system for quite a while. Most people don't realize it. Most people don't realize the negative effects of fluoride.
There's a wide range of health effects that are attributed to fluoride.
Bottom line, why should somebody get this new Pro One ProPure filter?
The reason to buy the Pro One, it's an all-in-one filter. It's convenient, easy to use. It doesn't require the add-on fluoride filter, and in addition, this filter removes the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid.